This is John Black, Super Chemist. This playlist, if you want to watch all the videos in a row, is called Playlist All I Know About Submissive Wives / Marriage / Family. I think this is part 17. We were talking about hypergamy, and how, if you don't want your woman to get dressed slutty and go out with her single friends to a bar where men are throwing drinks at them and hitting on them, it's not that you don't trust the woman. It's just it's about trusting or distrusting the biological mechanisms that are actual survival biomechanisms. So very strong. And like I said, if you flipped it around, it was a bar where all hot women were just throwing themselves at men and buying men drinks. You wouldn't want if you were a woman, you wouldn't want your husband going into that situation. You would be like, what the hell? Why do you got to go? Well, you could drink with your buddies at the house. Why do you have to be at that bar where there's, gorgeous women throwing money at you and hitting on you? So, but you're showing that you're a bad leader if you let her go, okay? Even if you want to, like, I ruined my whole life thinking the way that they tell you to think, how treat them like a queen. Yeah, and I always got a queen then. And I always did everything wrong. But if I could go back in time, right, I would still want I think that a woman should be able to go out and go with her single friends and that and blah, 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 blah. But would I do, if I could go back in the past and be young now and I would not let my woman do it. Even though I think, I want to let her do it. Why wouldn't I do it? Why would I change? Because I want to be a good leader. I want to be a man, okay? I want to be a good leader, and a good leader has to make tough decisions, even though someone doesn't like it, including yourself, even if you don't like it, even though I don't like it, I got to make the decision and say, no, you cannot go out with your friends, dressing slutty, with your single friends at a bar, okay? Because I care about the relation. I know for a fact that in her mind, maybe not her, obviously not her conscious mind, but her subconscious mind, where the biomechanism is, where the survival mechanism is, right? It's going into overload, saying he's a bad leader, he's a bad leader, he's a bad leader, he's a bad leader, because he's letting his woman be in a situation where she's drunk, so her inhibitions are already lower. She's got this hypergamy, she's got this pickiness, this selfishness, entitledness. You're a bad leader. You know what I mean? It's like a guy, if I'm in the military and I know this guy smokes and he ain't going to stop smoking, and he's terrible with munitions, I'm not going to put him in charge of the munitions dump or whatever, where he's going to blow everything up, right? Because I'm not going to do that. That's a bad decision. The same way with this. You either care about your marriage, and that's a good leader, or you care about your wife. Which is more important? Okay? See, this is the thing. That in a matriarchy, the woman is at the top. But Pastafarians don't believe in that. We believe in a patriarchy. Not a Christian patriarchy. A Pastafarian patriarchy. And I lost my whole train of thought. But I'm just repeating myself over and over again. So we're just going to go on to the next, and I lost my train of thought. So we're going to just move on to the next thing, which is brain hemispheres, okay? I want you to, I have a playlist called Matriarchy versus Patriarchy, and I described what a matriarchy is and what a patriarchy is. And one of the main things is that a matriarchy is more egalitarian, whereas a patriarchy is a hierarchy, okay? Hierarchy means that there's levels. You got a president that's a leader, and then you got your followers that are in, different levels of whatever. In a marriage, you have the leader, the husband, and the submissive wife would be the follower, and the kids are the followers of both of them. So, but in a matriarchy, it's more egalitarian, And you'll notice the feminazis, they're always like, oh, 50-50, 50-50. Let's split it up so we're all equal, even though we're not equal. You know what I mean? An apple and an orange is not equal. Okay? They might both be fruits, but they're still not equal. Equal means the same. Okay? If you're not the same, we're not the same, so we're not equal. People equate this word equal with some kind of like it's above something. It's something different than being the same. No, it actually means this exactly. It means the same. Sure, we're all equal when it comes to our core values and our core rights as citizens. We all have that. We're all equal, okay? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about in every facet. A man and a woman are not equal. They're not the same, so therefore they're not equal. But why is it? And I also did, and I'm going to tell you why it is that they want to be egalitarian, which doesn't work, okay, in any way, shape, or form. And if you want to know why, go watch the playlist called Matriarchy versus Patriarchy. You always have to have one leader, just like there's always one president. If you have two presidents, they'll just argue all the time. You know what I mean? So why do women want egalitarian systems? They don't like hierarchy. Even though you'll die without hierarchy. A society will die without hierarchy. This is why. And if you want, I have a playlist called Genderism, or something about gender, gender ideology. In there I tell that there's a difference between a man's brain and a female's brain. The main difference being the cord. There's a big fat cord that goes from one side of it's just tissue, it's just brain tissue or whatever. Or nerve tissue. It goes across, and you have two hemispheres, your brain. There's two sides. There's two pieces, right? And you have this cord that goes across that connects these two pieces. And those two pieces are like two different people in your head. If you watch the video about genderism, you'll see talk about how like some people, they take out half of your brain because you do seizures. And to stop the seizures, they either have to cut that cord and separate the two brains or pull out half of your brain, you know what I mean, and just get rid of it. What happens there is they notice that, like let's say they moved the cord or whatever, you got two brains, right? Right side always controls the left side of the body, and the left side always controls the right side. So let's say they cut out the cord and he's doing something with his right hand, right? The other hand can be doing stuff that he's unaware of. He's unaware of it. There could be a candy bar there. He picks up the candy bars, unwraps it, you know what I mean, starts eating it. He don't even realize that he's doing it. You know what I mean? And there's one thing that's weird because no person can make a square with one hand at the same simultaneously making a circle with the other hand. It's very hard. It's not impossible, but it's very hard. These people be having total manipulation, like perfect manipulation with both hands at the same time where they shouldn't be able to be doing it. Showing that it's kind of like you have two people it's literally like you have two people in your head right now, everyone. What's the difference between a man and a woman? And this is why you can say, that's why I say there's such things as transsexuals, because if that cord is not the correct size, and it's a female size instead of a male size, then you're going to have a transsexual, you know what I mean? And that's why you can't have transracial people, because skin color doesn't denote anything. It doesn't make you smarter, doesn't make you morals, doesn't do anything. It's useless, other than appearance, aesthetics. But the brain, white and black skin, no difference. Male and female brain, big difference, big difference. A brain scientist, you can take out a brain out of not tell the doctor what body it came from. He will tell you whether the brain is female or male, like 95% of the time, okay? That 5% that he's like, I don't know, or he's just messing up on it, those are the non-binaries, the trans people. Those are the ones they have different brains, so it's hard to tell, okay? And then if you get, I don't know about female to male, but male to female, they have done tests where they've studied brains from transsexuals, right, male to female, right? They show the brain to the brain scientist, and 75% he will tell you what the sex is of that person. You know what I mean? If you tell the doctor, hey, these are all transsexual whatevers, what gender is the brain? Okay, he will say this is a female brain, even though it came out of a male body, and he will say that 75% of the time. So this proves that the brain is different, right? So the whole thing is this, right? When you have in a woman, the cord is thick, really, really thick. In a man, it's very skinny, okay, in between the hemispheres, right? Now, a man is hierarchical, right? That's because his brain is hierarchical. Not only does he process information differently than a female, okay, a female processes information totally different, okay? Not only that, okay, a man sections off what he thinks. Everyone got two people. Everyone got two hemispheres, okay? But a man is less aware of it because he compartmentalizes, because he just has a little skinny thing going in between the two hemispheres to connect them up. It's very thin, very small, right? So when both sides make a decision, right, the dominant side will make the final decision. And the other side over here, it can't really, the cord going in between, he can be suppressed easily. So you have hierarchy. The dominant side will always come out on top and not only be on top, but suppress the other side of the brain, the other person that's inside there, right? They can suppress it because it's barely any kind of cord in between the two people, right? Think about two people in prison, right? You got one guy here, and they're connected by a hole in the wall, right? Well, if the hole in the wall is very, 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 very tiny and you can barely hear the guy, right? The dominant guy is always going to just ignore him, right? But what if the hole is giant, where the guy can stick his head in through and start screaming, I got a different opinion than you? It's kind of hard for the first guy who's dominant to ignore the other guy because there's a big giant head coming through this big giant hole screaming in his face. Okay? Now, think of it being, when you're a woman, that's what it's like. You have a big giant hole in between your two hemispheres, two people with two different opinions, right? Always giving different opinions, in most cases, right? In the man's brain, the cord is tiny. The hole is small. He can suppress the other guy easily. But in a woman, the cord is so giant, okay, it's like a big giant hole, and this guy over here, he's dominant. This is a guy, say, okay, is dominant. This guy is the lowest of the two, right? But he has an opinion. This guy can't shut this guy up because this guy over here there's a big hole here. He can't shut it off. That makes the woman go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that's how their brain works. They have this opinion, then they go to this, from this hemisphere, then they go to this hemisphere, then they go to this hemisphere, because there's no shut-off valve. It's an egalitarian system. Each brain has the same amount of power, okay? That's what an egalitarian system is. Everyone has the same power, okay? So they have an egalitarian brain because they're each hemisphere, which is basically two different people. If you knew as much about brains as I do when it comes to this, you would literally understand that it is literally having two people in there, okay? Literally. You have two people in here. But the man has an egalitarian brain where someone's a leader and someone's a follower. And the leader always gets his way. The follower can give his 2 cents, but once he gives the 2 cents, that's it. And that way, decisions are distinct. There's no arguments. There's a conversation, and then the leader makes the decision, and there's no arguments. Remember, Pastafarian God is the only true God, the only God that loves everyone.